Welcome to No Room for Phonies, the video edition. This is episode 13 or 14, I'm not sure exactly. Gratitude and forgiveness is what I wanted to talk about today. And No Room for Phonies is sponsored by good food, good times, and good friends. I took an opportunity this time to do the podcast live because we're all stuck here on, I don't want to say stuck, we're safe here in doing social distancing, and my son, who's normally very busy working all the time, is home with his cameras, so I thought it would be fun to just do it this way. And I've been working really hard to practice 30 days of gratitude during this time because I have a lot to be thankful for. In our family, we 100% have an income, and that's a big deal because a lot of people are not having an income right now and are wondering where their next grocery bill money is coming from and are having to delay their mortgage payments or worry about their rent. So I have what I consider to be a lot to be thankful for. And today was day 14 of my 30 days of gratitude, so almost halfway through the 30 days. And I think we're going to be here social distancing after those 30 days are up. But to me, I start out my day with that because gratitude actually does change your perspective. And so by starting out every day by looking for something that I'm actually thankful for, it's just a good way to start the day. It's a good way to get your perspective in order and not get lost in the negativeness that is part of this. I mean, if we spend too much time on watching television or on our social media device and our devices looking at social media, then it really can be depressing. I think you have to stay informed without basically overdoing that piece of it. So I've been starting with gratitude every day, and if you haven't been following, I posted today was my favorite place in my house, and every day is different. So I'll challenge you to practice 30 days of gratitude with me. And part of the journey that I've been on lately is that I've always believed in the balance between body, mind, and spirit. And so I have constantly worked at my body. Like since I've retired, I've walked, I've lost weight, I've tried to eat better. And then I've tried to work on my mind by, doing this podcast. I'm taking an online course. I read a lot. I think a lot. I talk to people, share my ideas. But, and then there's your spirit. And to me, your spirit is your core. And it's kind of the place where you live out the way that you choose to be. And your mind is where your free will and your emotions lie. And then to get from your mind to your core, you have to, in my opinion, or from what I've read and what I'm discovering, you have to develop self-regulation. And I think that, to me, that's identifying the thoughts that don't help you and don't move you forward. And almost having, in my course that I'm taking online, and I'm going to post, it's from Udemy.com, but basically he says you need to have the thought police who don't allow you to dwell on things that are not good for you moving forward. And I think that sometimes you do have to just choose to practice gratitude. It's almost like I need to get in shape physically, so every morning I'm going to get up at 7 o'clock and I'm going to walk my 10,000 steps. And it's almost the same with your mind because you need to practice gratitude. You need to get up every day and say, I'm really thankful for this, even when you're going through nasty times. And I have gone through some pretty nasty times, and as have we all, because we all have our story. And I think the thing that we know about gratitude and forgiveness is that it's available to everybody. We can all choose to be grateful and to forgive. And I think that gratitude is just a positive response, and forgiveness as well, to interpersonal harm. When things go bad, you have to choose your response as being grateful and as moving forward rather than victimizing yourself. So gratitude can release you from those negative thoughts. And I have been finding that, like, you wake up and you think, okay, I can't do the things that I normally would do. I meet a friend for coffee or whatever. And of course, we're all finding creative ways to stay in touch with our friends and whatever. But you can let those negative thoughts creep in. But when you focus on the good things instead of the bad, then you attract a happier life. But if you're weighted down with unforgiveness, it's then hard to open the door to gratitude. So feelings like revenge and unforgiveness and blame can linger with us for a long time, and they fill us up with negativity, and they do take root in you, and they make you unhappy. And I don't think I'm telling you anything new. I'm just telling you that what I'm experiencing. And I'm not saying that I always feel like it, but I've chosen it, and I've chosen to do that. And I think we need to understand the importance of being open and receptive and appreciative of each other. And I'm learning something about becoming the kind of person that you want more of in your life. And I one of the things that I found discouraging particularly when I was a principal, was to have people take advantage of you and not appreciate you for who you are. And I think that when you're in leadership sometimes and you're really trying to make change, I think it can be very discouraging because people don't get on board and they show resistance. And so you have to really practice that whole idea of gratitude and forgiveness in order to be able to be positive and keep on. And actually, human relationship is the central connection between gratitude and forgiveness. Like, we practice that so we can continue to have relationships. They are like, that's it. Like, if you're going to hold a grudge or not, you're not going to, I don't even know how successfully you could have a marriage if you're not going to, like, I've certainly have times, and certainly when you're all self-isolated together, you have times when you are when people are getting on your nerves. You can't help that. But if you respond positively with forgiveness and gratitude instead of negatively with avoidance or vengeance, or if you feel hurt or attacked, then you start building this anger and disappointment and hostility, and you need to replace this with more positive and benevolent kinds of attitudes and feelings and behavior. So, I've had conversations with people throughout this time, and I said, I hope that when this is all over, we come out of this more compassionate and thoughtful about our lives, and that I always have said, when you face something with another person, you kind of say, well, is this the hill you want to die on? And I remember, saying that a lot with my kids when they were doing something, and you think, okay, is this really worth the big deal? And I have talked a lot when I was teaching and working with teachers as a principal, and saying, is this the hill you want to die on? Because sometimes you just have to positively reinterpret stressful and negative things and figure out how you're going to move forward from where you've been. So gratitude and forgiveness are about empathy and kindness. So you have to have open-mindedness and perspective, and these are strengths of the heart. So, and when I went back and I talked about, like in the beginning when I was talking about spirit, that's your heart. That's your core. And so if you can say that at my core, I practice gratitude and forgiveness, then they are really the keys to your happiness. And I'm not talking about happiness in terms of, sunshine and fairy dust. I'm talking about happiness in terms of I have a purpose. My purpose is to try to support others and help others and do my best and be the person I was meant to be. And so that, to me, that is where happiness is. And gratitude and forgiveness kind of live in the same world. With forgiveness is kind of like the flip side of gratitude. It often it means that you respond positively to transgression by offering grace instead of vengeance. So I'm going to choose to be gracious to this person, even though they haven't been very nice to me. And it's a thing that's outward and directed and intentional and recognized as a character strength. So, and it also, I think it energizes you. And it gives you, it empowers you. Negative feelings are not empowering. And I have really learned that after a really bad experience with a job situation, and where I actually ended up leaving the job. And I really, there were a lot of people that did a lot of things to me that were wrong. And it took me a while, for sure, but I had to get to the point where I had to function in a positive way, or else not function at all. And I think this is where we give way to depression and anxiety and some of those things that prey on us. And I'm not saying there's diagnosed things. I'm not trying to say that people have depression and anxiety. That's not what I'm trying to say. But living in this kind of place of well-being by reflecting and being positive and, getting involved with relationships that actually facilitate your well-being and happiness are going to move you way more forward than getting, involved in revenge and trying. I could have sued them. That's the seriousness of what happened to me, and I chose not to, because I want to strive to be. I basically needed to move on. I needed to find grace and forgiveness and decide what I wanted to be at my core, and not go after people and end up in some kind of a court battle for months and months and months. So, my striving is to take responsibility for myself, be decisive and confident, be faithful and strong, mature, stable, consistent. So, those are lots of things that you can work on. And I can honestly say that after I'm going to be 57 in October, I'm still working on every single one of those things every day, and not letting myself get caught up in what's negative or what's bugging me. And I think part of it as well that I'm learning is that you have to be authentic and tell people about what you're learning about yourself. Because once your mind is stretched to understand and listen to new ideas, it doesn't go back to its original form. And one of the things that I've been practicing, and as part of this course that I'm taking, is trying to look at things from all kinds of different perspectives. So, okay, if I choose to do this, here's one thing that might happen, but here's another thing that might happen, and here's another thing that might happen. And looking at it from everybody else's perspective too, rather than, and looking at it from a space of trying to understand how other people are going to feel about this, rather than just sliding forward and doing, things that I feel are the right thing. And I think that also helps us become more forgiving when we seek first to understand, and instead of, for us to be understood, then I think that we're better off. But it is sure not easy, because especially with difficult people who are just not doing the same thing that you are, and being forgiving and gracious and positive, then that's where the challenge lies. And people do have to be willing to get on board to some degree, but the bottom line is you're only responsible for yourself and what you do and what you decide to do, and that's where you have to make the decision. There's actually a lot of literature about gratitude and forgiveness, and now that's starting to come out, because there wasn't much attention given to it. But in about the last 15 years, but we know that it has like a long history, extending back even like to ancient Greece, because gratitude and forgiveness are like a central role in your social life. Gratitude and forgiveness take you away from your own selfish interests and focus you on the interests of other people. And they're almost considered to be like virtues that are linked to your personal well-being and your mental health. And so, lots of reasons to pursue it and to practice it. And I believe you have to practice some things until they just become a part of who you are. So, I just think that you have to avoid the barriers to it, because there's lots of reasons why there's lots of people who have really bad stuff happen to them. And so it's really difficult to become thankful and grateful about stuff. But I think that you have to think about the barriers to gratitude and forgiveness, and just say, I'm not going to limit myself by what my mind and what my feelings are telling me to do. I'm going to sort those out and self-regulate and say, no, today I choose to be grateful. And I mean, if you look on the internet, as I have been this last little bit, you can find, millions of sayings on be grateful, have gratitude, and I've posted a bunch of them. And you can go back to, famous people talking about you need to be thankful for the people who have influenced you in your life. And I think through this kind of social media or social distancing time, where basically time is our friend, right? When you are stuck in your house, except maybe for a walk in the day, you have lots of time to think about and reflect on people and the people who have been part of your life, and reach out. And I reached out today to somebody who had been my principal a long, long time ago, and we had a long, chat. And, I was able to say to him, yeah, you were a positive influence on my life and what I was doing at that time as a young teacher. And, I think that's what, and right now is a time to care for people who are over 70. They shouldn't be out. They shouldn't be shopping for groceries or doing any of that stuff. And so we have to be self-aware, and know thyself is a big thing, and know the things that are barriers to you feeling forgiveness and gratitude. And then from out of forgiveness and gratitude flow this sort of idea that you are you help people, which I'm just trying to say whatever. I can't say the word right now. But because if you don't operate from that place, you don't think there's a barrier to you thinking about other people and making sure that you live your life. Your purpose of your life is to help other people and to add something to society that's positive. And there's lots of barriers, like you can label, this is just bad and I'm not going to be involved in it. You can think things are happening that really aren't happening. You cannot be, your thinking can be way too black and white. You can jump to conclusions, have tunnel visions, distort things. And so for me, I had to grow out of all these limited ways of thinking and just really hold myself accountable for my own thoughts and my own ways of interpreting things, so that I wasn't getting into this habit of thinking that, I can't do this because of this, or I can't move forward on this. All that stuff has to come to play in the fact that we are actually responsible for what we do with our lives and how intellectually strong and flexible in our thinking that we become. And I often used to say this saying when I was working, and it was, common sense is not a flower that grows in everybody's garden. And sometimes when I, see people and I just shake my head that is not, if you think of life and being responsible, how can you behave that way? And but life is a choice, right? And how we feel is a choice, and what we focus on is a choice, and who we are grows every day as we learn about ourselves and become more aware of ourselves. So I go back to the very beginning, and I think about this journey of this 30 days of gratitude. And obviously, I don't know that I'll post something for the rest of my life every day that I'm grateful for. But, a couple of days have been kind of challenging because the gratitude thing that I'm doing is focused on a certain topic every day. And I think, what is it that, like, one of the ones was, what good news have you had recently? And I think, well, right now is not a time when a lot of us are getting a lot of good news about anything. But, when you start thinking about life from a perspective of gratitude, we have everybody can find something to be thankful for. And I know that I sit from a position of, I have things, I'm not worried about where my next meal is coming from. But I haven't always been that way. I haven't always had, everything kind of, I've had to work myself out of some pretty nasty situations, and I certainly didn't grow up with a lot of things available to me. So I think that this is the point where we say, that for that kid who is really not have the greatest home life and not have this is where we say, you can move out of whatever situation you're in. And I think a lot of that starts with being grateful for the opportunities that we are presented with, being forgiving of our past, which is a huge thing to get to the point where you are forgiving of the people in your lives that maybe didn't treat you as well as they should have, or the experiences of your life that weren't the greatest. And then you move forward and you become that person who I was talking about, before, who is looking to be, responsible and decisive and appreciative of their life and looking for opportunities, confident and mature and stable and consistent in your reactions and authentic about who you are. And just to be willing to stretch yourself beyond. A lot of people live their lives as victims, and I guess no matter what has ever happened to me, I just have refused to do that. So those are some of my thoughts on gratitude and forgiveness. And if you start a 30 Days of Gratitude project, don't hesitate to send me an email, and you can always comment as well on Twitter and Facebook or Instagram, as I post things there as well. And I'm always interested in hearing about your story and your life, and maybe how you overcame your negative thought patterns in the face of some kind of a tragedy or an issue in your life, or some kind of trauma. And I just want everyone to stay safe and well. And thanks for listening to No Room for Phonies, episode 13 or 14, I don't remember, on gratitude and forgiveness.